talking with the board members now about criteria that options can be evaluated with.
Can I ask a favor? I mean, we've been here since 6 o'clock, and I don't remember anybody interrupting anybody with public comment or shouting anything while other people were trying to talk. I would just ask for that mutual respect. I don't think it's asking too much for the presentation to continue, and I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity to further engage the public. But shouting in the background does little to nothing to help it, and you were all, courteous to your time when you were able to speak. I'm just speaking for myself here.
We're having trouble hearing, I know, for one thing. So I understand you're saying like the public's not involved, but we are, we're here, we're present. So I guess if we're to be excused, that's fine, but it would be nice if we're present and hearing that we could actually.
I guess concern duly noted, but this part of the conversation is for the board to talk and give input into the criteria and determine what criteria that you might select that options can be evaluated by.
I think one of them has to be taking a look at the community schools aspect.
So that the extent to which the option enables community schools to continue.
The utilization of community schools. So if there is reconfiguration, repurposing some of that space with outside services such as maybe dental services or other student supports within the school that we're bringing right to the kids.
Okay. Okay, other thoughts about criteria?
Yeah. One Sure? Okay. Read a lot of comments, read a lot of emails, heard the ones, listened to the ones. Public comment here as well, and the website, which is Two Schools, One Fight, recognition, or the value, whatever the statement was, vision, that's what it was. And what I'm noticing is missing in a lot of the content is the impact on teachers. And I think that needs to be a major driving force. We have a national teacher shortage. We have a local teacher shortage. We have a substitute shortage. People are throwing around words like health, well-being, mental health, but we're not taking into consideration that the aids of the teachers, and then specifically in our emotional support and special ed areas as well. I mean, there's not a lot out there as far as options, and it's not getting any better based on the numbers that indicate. So you can have one school or you can have 500 schools. If you don't have any teachers, good luck having a school.
Okay, other thoughts about criteria?
I think that's
Yeah.
You might
yeah,
be.
I have a gym voice too. And I've said this from the very beginning, but my concern is how far the kids are going to have to travel. So I would like to see the cost of transportation as well as how long some of those kids are going to have to be on the bus.
Okay,
Um,
other thoughts about criteria?
Throw that thing in garbage too. So, I guess one of the places that I would like to potentially take a look at is the current courses that we offer, and then by potentially reconfiguring, what would the courses be looking like at that point in time? I mean, obviously, we know we can offer CP and AP this, whatever, virtually. I don't know how virtual will work for your students, for your children, but I can tell you it worked terribly for mine. So I am 100% against virtual, and I will say that publicly, it's terrible. At the end of all of it, though, I think we're kind of missing the boat on some of this curriculum, because I grew up in Warren County, and until you get outside of it, you don't see the other schools and what they have to offer in the bigger areas. If you have more students in one area, you can offer bigger courses. Pittsburgh, for an example, don't they have a planetarium or something down there in one of the schools? We're never gonna get there, right? I'm not asking for that. But what I'm saying is, what I would like to see, if at some point in time, if we're going to move one school into another, increase population by students, what courses can we offer to those students by having larger numbers? Something different than CP and AP, like what else is available to get these students to a college level? I think there's a big miss coming from Warren County sometimes with our students when they get to college. I'm not gonna say they're behind, but they may not be as prepared as they could be.
Okay, other thoughts?
My concern all along has not been money, because I don't see saving money on this. Any money that we pick up would be going to hire more and better teachers, to install more curriculum. What I want to see is, I'm very concerned about these schools graduating, having simply had English 9, English 10, English 11, English 12, because we can't offer any of the other levels when there are only 30 kids in an entire class, grade level. So, to me, I don't want any child driving for 2 hours to be where they need to be, but I don't want a child graduating from this school and then going to college or not getting into college because they don't have the classes, the background that they need. And so I'm open to any suggestion, but it has to end up in the end that we are improving these students' lives, either through better curriculum, better teachers. The teacher shortage is real, and I've heard the public say, like especially in the individual board, they can hire better teachers. The problem is, if we are asking those teachers to teach 6 different classes each day, 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes in between to transfer from English 11 to English 6, or Social Studies 7 to Social Studies 12. You're flipping in 3 seconds from this class to this class. We're not going to get those teachers. Up until this point, up until the last couple of years, the school district's been the driving force. We need teachers, great, there's 30 people applying for that one job. That's not happening anymore, and it's only going to get worse. And one of the things they're going to look at is not just money, which we try to be competitive, but realistically, we can't compare to Pittsburgh and surrounding areas and so on as far as money goes. But more importantly, they're going to look and say, whoa, wait a minute, you're paying me this much, and I have to teach 6 different grade levels? Thanks, but no thanks. And they're in a position now where they're in the driver's seat. They can say, I'm not teaching there, I can go here, and even if I don't make more money, I only have 2 classes, 2 tracks I have to do. So that's my criteria. I want to know that what we're offering these kids is the very best that we can offer as far as course curriculum
Right.
and the best teachers that we can get.
Right, okay, excellent.
The building utilization number, I had a public engagement session with some folks last week, and there was a an issue or a comment that was made that some of the building utilization specifically for Sheffield, that, whether the numbers were current just for the high school, but they didn't add elementary numbers, so I'm kind of curious about that. That's something I want to look at. I'm on board with what Marcy said about the transportation. Definitely have some issues with that. And I'm going to echo what Mr. Arthur said at the last meeting. I think that we need to have more information. We got a lot today, but we can't be putting options out there without, and I'm gonna use his words, before we put some meat on the bone. It's just not, it's not logical.
Right, and I think what we're attempting to do tonight is to take, because right now we have 12 or 15 options on the list, and there were a couple more tonight that were talked about that I'm not sure I have well articulated on this list that we need to clarify before we do it. But putting numbers around 15 options is unwieldy and unmanageable. So what we want to do is we want to take this list of 12 to 15 options, however many we end up with before we vote, and pare it down to a more manageable number, 3, 4, 5, that some real analysis can be put around and further discussion and input around. Okay? So that's what we're attempting to do here next. And we're talking about criteria that we can use to evaluate that longer list to come up with a shorter list that would be the items for further analysis. Does that make sense? So we're talking about the things that seem to be of interest to the board related to criteria is this learning environment. I'll call it the criteria of learning environment, looking at a building configuration to support learning and make more courses and curriculum available. That would be one potential criteria. We also heard about, under operations, the ability to bring other services to the schools through repurposing and improve local supports for students. We also talked about the ability to positively impact and support teachers, including creating a manageable number of preps as a recruitment and retention tool. Now, there were some other criteria that we had talked about on the list that we may not even keep on the list. I just want to talk about, do you want to leave it on here for now to consider? Access or impact related to special education and how those scenarios might impact that. Does that seem like an important criteria to evaluate options using? Yes? Okay. And then,
And I think, not only special ed, but if we could use supports, because we now have psychologists, social workers, and mental health supports being offered that aren't just special ed needs.
okay, excellent, thank you.
I think it's really important to note that not only should we evaluate, we kind of have to.
Okay,
You know what I mean? By mandates, state and federal, we've got to provide these services, and so it's non-negotiable. It's nothing we can cut or
Okay.
implement.
Deb, we use the terminology pupil services. Can't see Patty, but I think that'll be a broader term. Broader term, happier with that? Our special ed and pupil services?
yeah,
Thank you.
okay. So is looking at potential staffing efficiencies a criteria? Yes? Okay,
And especially with the teacher shortage,
right, so that's an important consideration. And so now here's a thought, can we combine the staffing efficiencies with the ability to positively impact and support teachers? Can we make that one criteria related to,
It was, I think, when we first talked about this, under one category, that we wanted to make it perfectly clear that we're not talking about gaining efficiency by cutting teachers.
correct,
So-
Yeah, it's not a monetary.
right. So then let's eliminate this one, okay, and look for, I'll add efficiencies here and create efficiencies here. Because it's not about lowering costs.
I have a problem where necessarily what we're looking for. We're looking for the ability to create these classes, and not, I'm not sure efficiency is the right word here, because
Is effectiveness a better word? Effectiveness? Yes. Okay,
effectiveness is a different one I'm talking about.
okay.
I just don't want to, it just, when you say efficiency, I'm thinking, okay, well, we have this class and this class, we take this teacher, put it together, that kind of thing. When the option, as far as I'm concerned, is, okay, we have this class and this class, we'll add this teacher here, and then we'll add a new teacher that then can add to this.
Right, so I'll change that to enhance effectiveness. I think that better captures the essence of what you're looking for there.
Our tech team has made some adjustments, so try to use your mics. They can fine tune it as you try to use them.
Okay. Testing. So what about ongoing maintenance costs? Is that a potential criteria? Or should we just leave a general category of overall implementation costs, including looking at transportation and length of time and costs? Maintenance.
We talked about maintenance of the building.
Like ongoing maintenance costs, is that?
You have to include maintenance, because one of our options is to do nothing and leave the current situation the way it is. So how do we not include the maintenance on the building if that's gonna be an option? So absolutely, in my opinion,
Okay.
I don't want to speak for everybody else, but you'd have to do the maintenance in there for that building.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go through a voting exercise to allow you, the board members, to vote on whether or not we're keeping each of these criteria. Okay?
I would just like to ask the board, on the transportation item, we've heard a lot tonight about different thoughts on what the length of the bus rides would be. Do you want to be specific in that item and define what's tolerable and what's not tolerable? In terms of the length of a bus ride?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think then you could include that in the item.
Mm-hmm. So what's the tolerable length of the bus ride?
That's what I was going to ask Mr. Keel here to give us kind of a.
For students going to our schools, they're kept within an hour. That's what we do.
We should look to maintain.
There are minor exceptions, but that is his target every time. We have students that go to charter schools and private schools, those sorts of things, but his target is an hour. And we're pretty, I mean, we'd be batting 99%.
What I would like to see
Mary, did you want to say something?
Yeah, what I would like to see is some actual numbers from Mr. Keel, because I may be off base, but it's hard for me to imagine that it would actually be a 2-hour ride from anywhere in our county. I mean, I can get to Brookfield in around 80 in less than that. So, I know, that's what I'm saying. I would like him to give us an idea of what it would be on a bus route from the farthest points, whatever, with the normal number of stops. I realize that there's a big difference between them, but I would like to actually have somebody who knows what he's dealing with, give us those numbers.
And Mary, the variables are this, if we talk about this, I mean, on a daily basis, outside of a reconfiguration conversation, right? In terms of what is it gonna take to get a child from point A to point B. If you put them on a large bus and have all those stops, and you put them on a, extend a bus ride, it's going to be different than if we put them on a van and then have, we pick up 4 or 5 students here and go. So it really does, it's custom. That's why I suggested just putting the target on there, and that way we can see, can he get it done with the scenarios that they're already on. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So other thoughts on the criteria?
public communication here. Do you have any thoughts, specific, not just the free-for-all thoughts, but specific on our criteria?
I think Paul said it first, you said you want to see some of the criteria be community schools. So, I mean, we gotta have the criteria be positive for that community, because I've had a lot of conversation tonight about the impact on what is gonna be the community. So, there's a lot of criteria that could be involved in that. So I agree with what Paul said about the community schools, but the impact on the community.
So we made that into a separate criteria. Any other comments on what the criteria could or should be?
I'm not seeing any more trouble.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now with the board members, okay? Okay, board members, you have a calculating looking thing in front of you. Yes, that. I'm gonna ask you to agree, I'm gonna ask you your level of agreement that we should actually utilize this criteria in our selection process. Should we keep the criteria for the learning environment defined as the building configuration to support learning and be able to make more courses and curriculum available? If that's the criteria that you want to evaluate options with, vote 3. If you think yes, but I think we ought to clarify that a little further or talk about it more before we do any voting, press 2. And if you don't think it's a good criteria at all, press 1.
The number is 1, 2, 3. It's
One.
not 1, 2, 3.
The buttons with bars on the top do not work. You need to press number 1, number 2, and number 3. And those are the only 3 buttons that will actually register here. Go ahead and vote. So we have 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, right? 8. Okay, I got y'all. What about the criteria to assess the access and impact to special education and pupil services? Yes, we should use this criteria to, yes, but we ought to talk about it or refine it further. 1, no, we shouldn't use it at all. Okay, impact on maintenance cost. Should we use this criteria? 3 is yes, 2 is yes, but 1 is no. Looking at implementation costs, including the transportation costs and the length of time on the bus with a target of 1 hour or less. And that the ability to bring other services through community schools through repurposing and improving the local supports for kids. Okay, everyone agrees with using the learning environment criteria. Any comments? We have one, I think this reflects one person who said yes, but any comments about how we should change this before we utilize it? Did I mention this was a speak now or forever hold your peace moment? Related to the criteria. We've got 100% agreement there. We've got 100% agreement on access and impact of special education and pupil services, so we're going to use this one. We have 50-50 on, again, 100% agreement that we should use it, but half of you said maybe we should think about this. What, should we change the language on this? Is it?
One of the things is, I think it's just too general a question.
Okay. Well,
Because that can, maintenance costs can encompass a lot of different
Sure, they can. But the way this criteria will be used, as you look at those, as you look at the various options, you can say, some things are gonna be more heavily impacted. Some things are gonna incur more maintenance costs over time than others, okay? So you can actually look at an option and say, this one is gonna cost more over the long run, so you can rate it differently than one that doesn't cost as much, okay? So it's about applying the criteria to the option.
I think my confusion came from, again, we're not looking to close buildings. We're looking to reconfigure the 9 through 12, but the buildings will have K through 8 at least. So it's not, I get confused as far as maintenance goes. We'll have to have maintenance on those buildings no matter what.